here is the question sent by Peter. Quote, "It is about my sister," Peter says. "She is a Pure Land Buddhist, but her husband is a conservative, strict Catholic, Christian Catholic. Although he is a devoted husband and father, he is closed-minded when it comes to any other religion. He will not tolerate any religion at home except Catholicism. It is a sure fight if anybody even breathes the word Buddhism in the family. As a result, the wife would go to church to satisfy her husband. Once, however, when communion came, when she had to make communion in the church, she crossed her hands over her heart instead of taking communion. So she refused to take communion from the church. Her husband glared at her disapprovingly. It was her way of saying enough is enough. I will go to Mass because it makes you happy, but I don't want to go to communion and be a fake anymore and let you think I am professing Catholicism when I am not. So I respect your beliefs, but I have mine as well. Now is the question from his question is like this: should she just go over the whole charade just to keep the peace in the house? Asked Peter. It kills her inside to be someone she is not. She will be watching your reply, Peter says, because she watches your YouTube videos but turns them off as soon as her husband enters the room. This is the question by Peter. So what kind of advice would you guys have for Peter's sister in her situation? I will also give one, but later. Please.
In Christianity, there's a term called unequally yoked. And in the Bible, someone, I don't know if it's Jesus or one of the apostles, says, do not be unequally yoked. That is to say, do not yoke yourself or connect yourself to someone who does not share, in that case, the Christian faith. I grew up in a Southern Baptist home. I ended up questioning a lot of what I was raised to believe. And my father made the horrifying statement, I never thought to question what I believe, David. I have always questioned what I was taught to believe because I wasn't looking for just pat answers. I wanted the truth. You have to be true to yourself. No matter what, you have to be true to yourself. And sometimes you have to make hard life decisions. I'm not a marriage counselor, but speaking for myself, I will not pretend to be something I'm not, especially now that I have received Amita's gift of Shinjin. I don't go around preaching what I believe, but I unapologetically make it clear to everyone I meet, I'm a Jodo Shinshu Buddhist and a traditional one at that. I've had jobs with managers and shift supervisors who've tried to preach Jesus to me, co-workers who've tried to preach Jesus to me, people who have run around saying, praise the Lord, praise the Lord. And I've made the comment, you do you, and I don't disdain their expression of faith because I have no right to do that. But when it comes to you, when it comes to your convictions, that is a deeply personal relationship between you and your higher power. Whether that is Amitabha Buddha or Jesus or whatever, you cannot dictate with an iron fist, you will believe what I tell you to. Because in matters of faith, that's not how it works. I know this was a long-winded answer, but it speaks to me personally because I came out of that very fundamentalist Christian environment where, as long as you live under my roof, David, you're going to go to church and you're going to give lip service to this, or I'm going to beat you. And so I'm very passionate about that. And as you can see, my Jodo Shinshu faith defines who I am. So my answer comes from the heart. It comes from my own personal experience. And I'll shut up and let other people speak.
Mhm. What do you, Hogaku, do you have something to say?
I was the new guy. I was the new guy. I was waiting. I was going to let somebody else jump. I know exactly how that feels in more ways than one, unfortunately. Without being, I'm trying to formulate an answer that's not too overly critical. I mean, the honest answer is that when it comes to Christianity, there will never be any half measures, ever. No amount of compromise will ever be good enough. And that may not necessarily just be Christianity, but in general, monotheism all tend to be like that. There's no meeting them halfway. When I was younger and I was starting to practice Buddhism while I was living with my parents, I had this, it's kind of, I mean, a funny story, but not so much a funny story. But I had this real ornate, big Buddha statue. And I had left for the day to do something. And when I came back, my parents had taped nude Barbie dolls to the Buddha statue. Now, could you imagine ever getting away with taping a nude doll to a crucifix? Like ever? Like in my home, I would have never gotten away with that. So the problem with monotheism is it is always a one-way street. Always. There's no half measures. And you have to really be mindful of that. Because if you're not, you really need to sit and think about it. I'm not giving advice for anybody to do anything drastic, but just going to church isn't enough. Just taking the Eucharist isn't enough. I have parents that are Eastern/Russian Orthodox, and they even will draw the line at certain things. But when I was younger, they were much more fundamentalistic, and they did not like it at all. There was no, and any girls that I dated, my marriage ended because of Buddhism. Nobody liked it. Nobody enjoyed it. Nobody appreciated it. It was always an uphill battle because, in the United States, it's Jesus or nothing. And unfortunately, that's not only not true, it's also not constitutional. But you just have to be mindful. I think Joshin mentioned unevenly yoked. For the Buddhist, my fiance is not religious. Neither is my stepson. But we don't get into clashes over this because for me, I don't need to force them. It's not necessary. But for other religions, that is unfortunately not the case. And with that, I'll end.
Picking up where Chris left off, I talked about in my videos to a certain extent how I grew up trying to prove to my parents my right to go on a spiritual search. And my parents, at first, they were very church-going and very religious Baptists. And as I've said in other videos, we never read the Bible at home. We never prayed as a family except on Christmas or Easter or Thanksgiving. And it was all for show. But when it came to me searching outside the box, whether it was through transcendental meditation or anything else, I always got the same narrow-minded pat answers from my dad. This is hokum. If it's not in my Bible, then I don't, this is crap. And it doesn't matter what other people say in the end. your salvation, your faith, your spiritual journey is how you choose to live your life and what you decide for the future of your life and the present of your life. And to allow someone to dictate what you are going to be and think, I went through that growing up in my home. And all it did was create hate. And that hate has remained to this day. I mean, no matter how much meta I want to sin toward my parents and forgive them, you know, it's set. It's like, you know, you'll do what we say or we'll beat it into you. And like Chris says, there's no halfway with this. Even if your family does not practice monotheism, they've been trained, this is the way, the truth, and the life. And no one comes to salvation but through this method. There is no compromise. And eventually you will be beaten down until you are forced to comply. So you either have to betray yourself and your own personal faith journey, or you have to be willing to make a sacrifice somewhere along the line. And at one point I made that sacrifice. It's like, I'm going out on my own. I'm going to find out who I am, what I believe, and here I am. And I do not regret 1 ounce of it. And I would not change any part of it, as brutal as my home life was. If I had compromised and pretended like they wanted me to, I would have just been living a lie. I won't live a lie.
Hozan, if you want to add something, please also don't type for Shingyo if other people speak, when other people speak. Okay, but if you also want to add something, you and Camila, please also do.
Yes, I wanted to say, I also grew up in a non-religious Muslim family, and they also were not really religious at all. But once I started like exploring religion, or when I started to become religious, they got really strict over it. They didn't want me to, because especially my mom, because she was like raised in a non-Muslim family from Bosnia, and she always told me that, oh, there's a God out there. And every time I would like question about like a God, she would immediately like get like defenses over it. She's like, oh, God does not have a creator. You cannot ask those questions. The one thing I noticed about monotheistic religions is they're a very anti-question. So if you start to ask questions like logic about like, okay, if there is a creator, why is there suffering? They will say, okay, do not ask that. And I would get confused. I would be like, okay, then it's never wrong to ask questions. It's always good to ask questions to clear your doubts. And they would always like shut me down, or they would start like fights basically. And then I would always get in trouble for it. But once after I became religious and the monotheistic, they got upset. And then once I left it, it became even a bigger deal. But my advice would be, if you do not want to go to the church or something, then I would say do not go, but don't force yourself. You have to be like certainly strict with how you're gonna do it. Like for example, when my family preaches me to Islam, because I don't live by myself, unfortunately, I have a very strict line, because unless they ask me a question, but I never talk to them about religion unless they would ask me a question. But every time they would try to debate with me, I would immediately cut them off and I wouldn't give them a chance. They would even try to like invite me for like a couple days ago. There was this thing called Eid al-Iftar or Eid al-Fitr. That's what it's called. And they wanted me to come and I didn't want to go because it's ridiculous to me. I don't want to join their celebration for it. So I just told them no, and they got upset over it. And after a while, they they just let it go. But yeah, that would be my advice. Just like be strict. But if they try to force you like to go, then you have to be strict with that. Just don't well, how can I put it in a right way?
Boundaries.
Yes. Just do your best, but if they try to force you, I would immediately get strict with that. But if they let you go on certain things, if you don't want to go, then it's fine. But if they start asking you like ridiculous questions on Buddhism, or they want you to go to monotheism, I would immediately cut them off. That would be my advice. Sorry.
No, I think your answer was excellent, but Josho Sensei has some excellent advice that I've read in some of his posts on VK. And he said, do not hesitate to ask Amida Buddha for guidance. And that is what I do more and more every day. If I am unsure about something, if I don't know what to do, and I consider that part of my entrusting to Amida. Now I've received Shinjin, that is set. My birth in the Pure Land is set. But in my daily life, I am constantly trying to change my focus from distracting thoughts to Amida. And when I am unsure on how to handle a situation, any kind of relationship situation or circumstance, I ask Amida's guidance because I understand I am a bamboo. I am a spiritual idiot. And I don't know what I'm doing, and I admit it. You know, Chris made the comment on our Zoom chat, you know, I'm the new guy. I said, hey, I'm the perpetual new guy. You know, that doesn't end. It's not going to end. I face that, but it's like Amida knows infinitely more than me because Amida is an enlightened Buddha. I am not. And so I'm not going to allow some other samsaric, unenlightened being, regardless of my relationship to them, dictate who and what I am going to believe, how I am going to live my life. I have handed that over to Amida Buddha, and I stand firmly behind.
Yes. Camila, do you have an advice for Peter's sister? You can say it in Spanish if you want.
Yo creo que es muy difícil tratar con los cristianos así ortodoxos porque no están dispuestos a escuchar otras cosas, están muy cerrados en su idea de Dios y solo Dios y no aceptan otras cosas y no sé qué decirle a la hermana, pero creo que es muy difícil y no sé qué decirle. Pero sí, yo, las personas cristianas que conocí o que conozco son sí muy cerradas. Solo es Dios, la voluntad de Dios, todo es gracias a Dios y ahí se terminó todo. No sé qué decir.
She says that it is really very difficult to deal with these kinds of Christians because inherently they are close-minded, especially when it comes to belief. So she understands how difficult it is, the situation of the whole situation, because inherently this, they will not listen to any other rational explanation. They're closed. That's the reason.
I see. Yes. So as you see, you already received some advice from everybody, some very good and balanced advice. So I would like her to listen to all the things that our members said, you know, and I will add a more radical advice. So she can choose from each one of these advice, but I would also come with another advice, with another solution, a more radical solution, which I found in Haudenosaunee words. So when I read for the first time Peter's letter, I automatically remembered the words of Haudenosaunee, who said, quote, "If one cannot practice Nembutsu as a monk or as a celibate, one should take a wife and recite Nembutsu. On the contrary, if one cannot practice Nembutsu with a wife, one should recite Nembutsu as a monk or as a celibate." So I will rephrase this and say to your sister that if she cannot say Nembutsu while married with her husband, then she should separate herself from him and say Nembutsu alone. So she can divorce. Divorce is a solution, is a radical solution, but it might be the better solution for her. I don't know. She is the one who decides. She knows better what to do. But I will also come with this idea to get a divorce. You know, if divorce is the supportive element for saying Nembutsu, then she should get a divorce. And these words that I am now using, supporting elements for Nembutsu, were used by Haudenosaunee himself. So he said like this, that we should gather in our life all the supportive elements or conditions that help us say the Nembutsu of faith and be born in the Pure Land. These supportive elements or conditions depend on each individual. And Honen did not stop at celibacy or marriage when he said that. So he said something like, if staying in one place makes Nembutsu impossible, then go on a pilgrimage and do Nembutsu and say Nembutsu. If Nembutsu is difficult on a pilgrimage, then stay in one place and recite Nembutsu in one place. If poverty is a problem for a person to say the Nembutsu and follow the Nembutsu path, then try to get some money. If saying the Nembutsu in seclusion is impossible, then say it with other devotees. So this is Honen's advice. Do whatever that helps you say the Nembutsu, and give up to whatever that obstructs you from saying the Nembutsu. See, this is very important. So this is my advice. After she hears everybody's advice, she can also sing to this. You know, Shingyo from Russia cannot speak in English, but he's using Google Translate to and she wrote in the chat with the help of Google Translate. So he said, "It is certainly a difficult situation. Nevertheless, nothing is more important and higher than the three jewels. After she is born in the Pure Land, she will return for him, for the husband, and lead him to Amida Dharma and to the Pure Land. Just a lot of patience, strength. May Amida Buddha light her way." Haudenosaunee also said something very important. And I will quote Haudenosaunee now. "If you do not regard your lifestyle as a supporting element of Nembutsu, and you cling to your lifestyle out of mere stubbornness, this will be the cause of your fall into the three lower realms. Hence, to achieve birth in the Pure Land of ultimate bliss, and to design your lifestyle in order to meet that goal, this indeed become the supporting conditions for birth in the Pure Land. Everything should be understood in this manner." So any one of us should think to his life and organize his or her life in order to be able to follow the path to the Pure Land. We cannot risk our attainment of birth in the Pure Land. So she is now in human form, which is it's a rare chance to be born in human form, okay? So she has to treat her human life very carefully. And she should consider that the most important thing for her is to go to the Pure Land, is to say the Nembutsu. During her many lives in the beginningless past, she had thousands and thousands of husbands. Okay, she cried for the death or the separation from some myriads of husbands. So, husband is not so important than like birth in the Pure Land. So she has to somehow decide and never sacrifice birth in the Pure Land for a husband, for anybody. This is what I think. I am a radical guy, okay? Yes.
On that note, me and Josho Sensei have had a discussion about, and I told him why I don't have a girlfriend or a wife at this point in my life. Taking that advice, it's like here in the United States, you know, you never know what you're going to get when you go dating with a woman. And aside from being an older person, in terms of love relationships and personal friendships, and Josho can speak to this fact, eventually people who don't agree with the way I live my life or want to impose outside religions on my life, I let them go. And I've joked on, I'm not joking actually. I've said on my videos, and I'll say it here, and it's true, even though I have long hair and an earring and everything else, and I hold down a job, for all intents and purposes, I have chosen a life as a lay Buddhist monk. That is to say, nothing is going to distract me from my focus on Amida. And I feel that to yoke myself to someone else, I don't have the time left on this earth to argue with someone on what direction our life should take. And that's why I choose what I eat, I choose what I believe, I choose how to live my life. I choose Amida, and there's no compromise on that till the day I die.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Peter, I will put this discussion also on YouTube as soon as possible, so she can hear it. Okay.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's very much appreciated. Thank you so much.
And please transmit to your sister my greetings and my best wishes.
Yes, I will. Thank you so much.